Right, I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, Liz Hart, who's the Senior Advisor Manorial, part of the Independent Archives team, Archive Sector Development at the National Archives at Kew. She's going to talk to us about the National Manorial Documents Register, the MDR project, for which she has responsibility for maintenance and development of the register. So if we've got all our things in order, then I'll hand over to Liz.
Okay. Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to speak today at your seminar. I thought I'd split my talk this morning into 3 sections. I thought I'd begin with a very brief introduction to the manorial system, but I'll leave details about the types of records produced from it for the 2 speakers this afternoon. I thought I'd then move on to the history of the Manorial Documents Register and its revision, followed by a brief demonstration of how to use the online MDR and what it has to offer. Now, the manor in England and Wales has a long and complex history. No single definition of its constitution and functions can be valid for all periods of time and all parts of the country. But in general terms, and for the purposes of the register, they were landed estates of varying sizes, administered by their lords as a single unit. The lord provided protection to their tenants in return for their services and rents. The precise nature of these mutual obligations was defined and regulated by the custom of each manor, as it evolved over the years in its own court, an institution that lay at the heart of the manorial system. Now, the lord or his steward presided over this court, with tenants as jurors. The court defined and regulated conditions of tenure, decided such matters as rights of the lord and tenant over the common wasteland, the making of bylaws, and the appointment of minor officials. In some cases, it might also have jurisdiction over petty offences such as trespass, brawling, or theft. There were 2 types of tenants, freehold and customary tenants. It is because of the latter that the register came into existence. Customary tenants, which were at first villeins run free tenants, could acquire their holding only from the lord of the manor in the manorial court, and could dispose of it only by giving it back to him. These transactions were recorded on rolls of court, and by the 15th century, the custom arose of giving these tenants copies of the entries relating to their holdings as evidence of title, hence the term copyholders, and I'll come back to this shortly. Now, manorial documents are the administrative records created by this manorial system and are therefore an important source of information for researchers about people, communities, and places. These records date back to the 12th century and survive in increasingly large numbers from the 14th to the 20th century. They provide a snapshot into the lives of ordinary people. Manorial records cover a wide variety of subjects, such as agriculture, landscape, land ownership, buildings, archaeology, crime, industrial development, urban growth and diet, as well as the wider topics of family, local, and house history. So, what is the Manorial Documents Register? Well, it's the official index to the nature and location of surviving manorial records for England and Wales. It allows researchers to identify all records relating to a particular manor or place, wherever they may be preserved. Records from one manor alone can be scattered amongst different local record offices, privately held family estates, cathedral or college collections, and national repositories, such as the British Library and at the National Archives. And that is why the register is so important, as it brings all this information together in one place. Now, it was established by the Master of the Rolls in 1926 in order to enable the legal profession to trace records relating to copyhold property. Its origins lie in the Law of Property Act 1922, which, amongst other things, abolished copyhold tenure, thereby converting all copyhold to freehold. But as ultimate title to these holdings was in the entries on the manorial court rolls, it was essential to protect former copyholders' rights by preserving these records. It was recognised, therefore, that these documents required official protection and that a register should be compiled to record both the ownership and the location of these records. Manorial records were therefore placed under the care of the Master of the Rolls, and a set of manorial documents rules was issued for their protection and preservation. And perhaps I should say here that manorial records are special, as they're the only group of records, apart from public records, to have any form of statutory protection. Now, the National Archives, on behalf of the Master of the Rolls, is responsible for both the maintenance of the register and the administration of the rules. I thought I'd briefly mention the rules before I move on to the register itself. The four most important points of the rules are noted on this slide, but perhaps the most important is that no manorial records may be removed from England and Wales without the permission of the Master of the Rolls. And in practice, this is never granted. I should also add that there is a popular misconception about right of access to manorial documents. People believe because of the rules and their special protection that everyone has a legal right of access to these documents, but this is not the case. The only group of people under the rules that have any right to insist upon seeing manorial documents are those trying to prove title to land which was once copyhold. Those pursuing historical, genealogical, and academic research do not have a right of access. Therefore, access to private records is a privilege and not a right. Now, the rules also very importantly define the records that should be noted in the register. As you can see on the slide, they include court rolls, surveys, maps, terriers, document and books of every description relating to the boundaries, administration, franchises, customs, and courts of a manor. In fact, any document produced as a result of the internal administration of a manor fall within the definition of the rules. But specifically excluded are documents connected with the title of the manor, including deeds, grants, conveyances, and legal records. Now, the Manorial Documents Register was originally a paper-based index. In 1926, a Manorial Documents Committee, based at the old Public Record Office, was established to gather information to compile the register. They advertised in the press and used several sources to identify people whom they thought might own manorial records. So they looked at Kelly's Post Office directories, Victoria County history volumes, and two lists of owners of manors compiled by the Board of Inland Revenue and the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. Now, the committee wrote to these people and requested that they supplied basic details of documents in their possession. Information was returned on special pre-printed forms. The formats varied over the years. This is an example of one for Mitchell Manor in Cornwall. And these returns can still be consulted in HMC 9 at the National Archives. Now, in 1959, the Historical Manuscripts Commission took over responsibility for the register. Information from these returns was transferred into little red binders, and this may be what most people are familiar with when you talk about the Manorial Documents Register. So this was taken in 2007. Since then, the register has been microfilmed and is now available in the map and large document reading room at the National Archives at Kew. There are two indexes to the paper indexes, parish and manor. Try the pointer. These ones here are the parish indexes. They sort of have more of a black spine to them. And the manor index is here with the little white spines. Now, the parish index is arranged by the historic county and alphabetically by parish name within each county. It's really designed to provide a rough indication of the names of manors associated with a particular parish. The parish name is in the centre of the slip, and the manor name is in the top right-hand corner. As you can see from this slide, there are two manor names. Rookie is the authority manor name, and that's the name you'd look for in the manor index. Water Andrews is an alternative name for that particular manor. Now, the manor index is arranged very similarly to the parish one, again by county and then alphabetically by manor name within each county. It's really here that details of manorial records will be found. So this is a typical entry. The name of the manor is in the top right-hand corner, and not for the Middlesex, but for other counties, it would note the county and the parish. In the centre of the slip is a description of the documents with dates, and at the base of the slip is where the records are held. And if you're very lucky, you might get a collection reference number. On the reverse of the slip, it tells you where they got the information from. So this is a letter from the solicitor's firm, Lee and Pemberton's. And you can see this was between 1942 and 1946. If there is a note for the manor in the manor index, but no records associated with it, this means we have no note of any surviving records for this particular manor. Now, we began a programme for revising and updating and computerising on a county-by-county basis in 1992. So we began with Wales, followed in 1995 by the first English counties, which were Yorkshire, followed by Hampshire. So far, we've got available online all the historic counties for Wales, and 23 English historic counties are now available. The challenging objective of completing its revision can only be achieved through partnerships with other bodies and organisations. But the benefits of computerisation is that it's a process that involves major improvements, both in the quality and quantity of the information provided, rather than it just being a simple exercise of transferring information from a paper slip to an electronic database. The creation of the authority manor names is the starting point for the revision of the register. Now, there are a number of definitions for what is a manor, but for the purposes of the register, the definitive proof of the existence of a manor is the right of a lord to hold a manorial court. And this is what distinguishes it from a country house or an estate. So establishing a list of manors for each county involved identifying those which not only bore the name of manor, but with reasonable certainty maintained a manor court. This is crucial because only records produced under the administration of a manorial court are eligible for inclusion in the register. So this is a very important point to remember. The manor name information within the register is not designed to be a definitive list of all manors which existed, but only records the names of manors for which documents were or may have been created in order to enable those documents to be entered onto the register. A list of alternative names for the manors, which we saw earlier, Water Andrews, has been compiled through secondary sources and sometimes looking at the original records, which means that when you do a search online now, you can search using a recognised variant name or an alias. Now, we've worked with local partners to update our existing knowledge of manorial records by checking the locations and descriptions of manorial records noted in the register. As you saw from the earlier slip, names of repositories change and are still changing. So the one we saw earlier was Greater London Record Office, which is now the London Metropolitan Archives. Perhaps the most obvious one, which you will still find in non-computerised counties, is the British Museum, whose manuscripts collections were transferred to the British Library on its creation. So if you see British Museum, it means British Library. Now, records may also have moved to new locations or collection reference need to be provided, as we saw for those manorial records earlier, or need to be updated. And the online register also distinguishes between different types of documents and provides accurate date ranges, unlike the paper indexes that provide more general information, and some cases just say manorial records, 15th to 17th century. So, as each county is computerised, collections held by repositories are investigated, and new information is identified that has not been previously mentioned in the paper indexes, amongst both catalogued and uncatalogued collections, as well as collections held in private ownership. So it can involve extensive checking of original documents to verify descriptions in the catalogues. Amongst the records surveyed are manorial court rolls, which are investigated for chronological gaps, which can be due to either periods when the manorial court was not sitting, or more likely, the court rolls are missing. This methodical checking can uncover many items of interest not previously noted amongst even catalogued collections. A particularly exciting find in this respect was discovered by the Suffolk Project amongst the records of the manor of Felixstowe, or Walton Priory. In 1381, during the Peasants' Revolt, the priory became the target of an attack by the mob, and the court rolls and other manorial records were burned. This was a symbolic act which played out in many parts of the country, the records being a physical manifestation of the control of the landowners over the tenants. So the first court rolls of Felixstowe Priory were believed to have started in 1381, as the first court roll states, "First court after the burning of the books." But whilst working through some tightly bound court rolls, a single membrane was identified which predated the riot. So why did this lone membrane survive? As I gather, the court transactions weren't anything out of the ordinary. It'll be something that we have to leave for the academics to look into. But it just shows you that by doing this work and this revision, new information is discovered all the time. Now, as the register was set up in the 1920s, unfortunately some records may have been destroyed, either by accidental loss or even enemy action during the Second World War. But the aim of the register is always to ensure that researchers are provided with correct locations, up-to-date reference numbers, and accurate document descriptions, including date ranges. Now, perhaps the most obvious benefit of computerizing the indexes is it provides far wider access. As previously, you could only come in to look at the register in our search room or writing in with an inquiry, which is still the case for the remaining non-computerized counties. It also makes the maintenance of the register far easier. We can make changes to the entries and prevent it from becoming out of date. This is very important. The register is not static. It's growing and changing all the time. And we can obtain this information through lists and catalogues from record offices and through our annual accessions exercise, where at the beginning of each year, we ask all the principal repositories in the British Isles to submit details of the records they've received in the previous 12 months. We also obtain details through sales of manorial records through the auction rooms, through eBay, of course, and through new discoveries. And as I said, computerization also offers increased search functionality. With the paper version, you can only search by manor, really, and by parish. Now you can search by document type and by date as well, or a combination of the above. Now, the creation of name authority records for the register is a new development and is still in its infancy. The idea is it will provide a summary of the history of each manor, the descent of its ownership, so the families that owned it, its geographical extent, which is very important. With the register, we just link it to one parish. But as many of you are aware, you can have one manor in a parish, many manors in a parish, and manors cross parish boundaries. So we record all of that there, and one of the new developments in the future is that you'll be able to search that as a free text search. We also record the manorial jurisdiction, so how often the courts were held and anything that's unusual. And then we also note the sources where they've got the information from and evidence for the status of the manor. The idea behind this is to provide context to allow researchers to understand the information given in the register more fully. So far, only the Lancashire Manor Authority files have been made available online. We are still adding them one by one. We haven't found a way of loading them automatically, so it has to be done manually, and I'm the only one who's doing it at the moment. So, so keep an eye out. It will be changing and adding all the time. We can also create links to online related resources, which is again a new development, with links via British History Online to the relevant manor history in the Victoria County History volumes. And we can also link to other websites with an explanation of a particular county manorial system or individual manorial histories, and also to authoritative online transcriptions and translations of manorial records, all of which I hope to demonstrate later. A new development in the pipeline is to make available online details as to whether the manorial records are available on microfilm or as a published transcription or translation. The project officers have identified this information, but it's not yet visible on the online version, so we're working on that at the moment. So, for example, if you see in the repository field unknown location, please do get in touch with us, either by email or by letter, because it's possible we know that it's available either on microfilm or as a transcription or translation. If you do get in touch with us, our email address is mdr@nationalarchives.gov.uk. Now, we don't really have the capacity to undertake these projects by ourselves, so we're working with a number of organisations to build on existing working relationships. So a couple of examples of projects that we've worked on include Cumberland, Westmoreland and Lancashire North of the Sands. And this was led by the History Department at Lancaster University in partnership with the National Archives, Cumbria Archive Service, Friends of Cumbria Archive Service and the Cumberland and Westmoreland Antiquarian and Archaeological Society. We were very fortunate the Heritage Lottery Fund supported this project, and there were a number of education and outreach elements, including creating an online web guide to Cumbrian manors, manorial records and how to interpret them, which I'll hopefully show you in a moment, and projects by the Lawton and Derwent Fells Local History Society on using manorial documents for local history. Another project was Berkshire and Buckinghamshire. This was slightly different, again undertaken in partnership but with Royal Holloway, University of London, Berkshire Record Office and the Centre for Buckinghamshire Studies. But it was funded by the Mark Fitch Fund, the Buckinghamshire Record Society, Archaeological Society, Family History Society and the councils that supported Berkshire Record Office. Now, their outreach work included a family day with a reenactment of a manorial court. Now, how we undertake this work is to appoint a project officer for the revision of each county. Their role is to research the manors of the county, creating a list of standard and alternative manor names, investigate collections held by the local record office, both catalogued and uncatalogued collections, to investigate records held in out-of-county record offices, as well as records held amongst cathedral, college and estate collections, and of course national repositories such as the British Library and the National Archives. Often the project officer is supported by volunteers. For example, Wiltshire has 20 volunteers who are assisting with the project, including investigating manorial court rolls, looking for those chronological gaps of more than 5 years, and assisting with researching manor authority files. So, as I said, so far we've got all of Wales online and 23 English historic counties. So what have we still got left to do? Well, these are the projects in progress at the moment. So Cambridgeshire, Devon, Herefordshire, Huntingdonshire, Kent, Northamptonshire, Northumberland, Wiltshire and Worcestershire. And I have to say that we're fortunate that the following counties, Kent, Northamptonshire, Northumberland and Wiltshire, have been partly funded through a generous grant from the Federation of Family History Societies. We are hoping by the end of this year that the counties of Cambridgeshire, Huntingdonshire and Wiltshire will be made available online. And it is hoped, subject to funding of course, that the remaining 7 counties of Cheshire, Cornwall, Durham, Leicestershire, Lincolnshire, Oxfordshire and Rutland will all have started by 2019. And this map, not quite sure what happened there. I think it's when they merged the presentation together. Yeah. I'll show you a map at the end of the presentation. But what it does, it shows you which counties are being computerised, what needs to be done, and which ones are in progress. So it means that you can keep an eye on that to see how we're getting on. So I'm going to move on to, still need this. Really, these are the two web addresses for the online version of the Manorial Documents Register for Wales and the 23 English counties already available online. The top one is the Discovery, so it's the Manorial Documents Register in Discovery, which is the one I'm really going to demonstrate today. The one at the bottom is the old online version, and you'll see why when I click across to this one to say that it will no longer, it's being retired. After the end of October, and we will move across to the new version within Discovery. But I thought it might be quite good to have a look at this so you can see what's there, and then you can compare it with the other one. It notes all the counties that have been computerised so far here. It also notes here all the records that should be included within the register, so it's a reminder for you. Here, where the link didn't quite work, is to the map, which I'll show you at the end, and also how you can help us keep the Manorial Documents Register up to date. So if you find any records that aren't on the register, please do let us know. If you find alternative names for manors that aren't already recorded, just get in touch. And any collections that you know about that somehow or other have been missed off the register, or it may be one of the unknown locations. And you can do two searches, a basic search by manor name, and an advanced search, so you can search by county, manor, parish, document type, or date, or a combination of the above. And also up here, there's a help, which is sort of frequently asked questions. So if you've forgotten what I've said about what is a manor and what does copyhold mean, the answers are all here. There's also a glossary on the various different document types, and also a bibliography. So quite a lot of legal books about manorial history and legislation. And then this is what a traditional entry would look like. As you can see, it hasn't really changed very much from the paper version. The name of the manor is in capitals, so that's the standard name. The alternative manor name is in lowercase. There's a link through to the repository. So it takes you through to Find an Archive, which is formerly known as Archon. So that will give you contact details, opening hours, and whether you need to book and make an appointment. Then the record reference here, and then a link. So we've got a link to an online catalogue for Record Office. So it'll take us through to North Yorkshire's online catalogue, so you can look at it in more detail there. And also an NRA catalogue reference, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So, as we saw, we got the lovely yellow banner across the top. So this now refers you to the Discovery website, in which the information from the register has been incorporated into Discovery, TNA's online platform, alongside information from the National Register of Archives, Access to Archives, and Archon, creating a single point of online access to catalogues and organisational data from across the archive sector. So I thought I'd talk a little bit, very briefly, about why we've developed Discovery, what Discovery is. Well, on this slide are some of the reasons. I'm not going to go through all of them, but prior to Discovery, the National Archives was providing records information across many different systems and parts of the website. These systems were managed and supported by different teams, updated by different people, and contributed to in different ways by record officers. Discovery brings the records information from these resources together in one place, so that researchers only have one system to master. Upgrades and developments benefit all the data sets within Discovery, and the system is robust, stable, and technically advanced, which ensures that we can continue to provide a good service to researchers and contributors. What you can do in Discovery? Well, it's currently the resource which you can use to search for records held both by the National Archives together with those held in other UK archive services. It contains a wide range of content, including descriptions of collections held in public and private hands. Collections are held in over 2,500 archives or repositories, and it even references material held abroad when the records are deemed relevant to British history. Now, as we've mentioned, you can use Discovery to find information about these records, but you can also search and download records digitised by the National Archives. It also provides a different route into the collections. You can now search by record creator, so you can search by families, people, businesses, organisations, and of course, manners. You can also find an archive tool, which is this one. This takes you through to find an archive, formerly known as Archon, so you can search for record offices, contact details, and that sort of thing. And I'm told for more frequent users of Discovery, you can register an account. Once you're signed in, you can tag records, bookmark pages, save searches, and save a history of download purchases, all of which facilitate your research. Now, a standard search in Discovery will show general information about manorial records held here and elsewhere. So if you type in the name of a manor, it's every record that has manor in it. And so it was decided that the Manorial Documents Register should have a place within Discovery. And this new search, which I'm going to show you, only searches the data held within the Manorial Documents Register, none of the other material within Discovery. It's also retained its title, so it's still called the Manorial Documents Register when you land on the page. And there we go. And it recognises or an acknowledgement of its legal status. So this is the new home page of the Manorial Documents within Discovery, which notes the records included in the register, as the old one did here. It also tells you what the Manorial Documents Register is. There's also a link to telling you which counties have been computerised and made available. And you can also link through to the Manorial Documents Rules. It takes you through to legislation, the Law of Property Act 1922, and the Manorial Documents Rules 1959, 1963, and 1967. This one is quite helpful, Discovery Help. If you click on that, it will take you through, and then you click on something called Accessing the Manorial Documents Register, and that will provide guidance on all the searches that I'm going to show you now. If you're a first-time user, it might be worth printing the instructions off, and then you've got them by your side, rather than having to flick between the two. You can also click on Browse, and this is a alphabetical list of all manors that are available on the Manorial Documents Register. But as you can see, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. There we are. It's a pointer. There's 2 Abbots Manor. At the moment, there's an enhancement that's being undertaken, which means that it will reveal which parish and which county it's in, because at the moment it isn't very helpful. So that's an enhancement that they're working on, and hopefully it should be ready in the next few weeks to go live. Okay. And then you can also click on Manorial Documents Register here, and that will take you through to the current initiatives page. It's for Archive Sector Development, which is the department that I'm based in, and this provides up-to-date information about the project and where we are, with a link to the map, which I will be showing you at the end. So if we go back to this page, as you can see, there are 2 searches: search by manor and search for manorial documents. So I thought I'd show you search by manor first. So for the search by manor, you can search by standard manor name, alternative manor name, English parishes only, historic county, which is from a drop-down menu, or a combination of the above. So if you know the name of the manor, I've chosen Cotton Hall. This will return a list of manors which match your criteria and looks very similar to the old online MDR. There we go. As you can see, it's searching both standard and alternative manor names. So if we were to click on Cotton Hall Manor at the top, it will take you through to the record entry. And this is very similar to the old version that I showed you with Richmond. So again, you've got the standard manor name in capitals at the top. Then it says view details of this record creator, and you click on that to expand it, and I'll show you that with the Exning manor one in a moment. And then a list of all the documents, which again are arranged in chronological order, with details about the repositories, collection references. But if you click on the one that says Ministers' Accounts, 1359 to 1377, it takes you through to the main entry, which means that you can, if there's a link to an online catalogue, this is where you would access it through from here. And you can also link through to the repository and contact details. I haven't done Kenneth Spencer Research Library. One of my colleagues kindly supplied me with a slide for this one. Cambridge University Churchill Archive Centre. As you can see, it has access details about opening hours. There's a nice little map showing you where it is. And then at the bottom, it's an overview of the collections held by the service, businesses, organisations, persons, diaries and families, which links to the old National Register of Archives. And I should say, NRA catalogue stands for the National Register of Archives, and that provides detailed information about archival sources relating to British history throughout the UK and overseas. An NRA list is a catalogue of a collection which has been compiled either by the staff at the local record office or by the former staff of the Historical Manuscripts Commission. It will contain reference numbers and descriptions of documents that make up a collection, amongst which are the manorial records. So it's often worth consulting this catalogue, as it may contain other records relating to the estate rather than the manor that might be of interest to you with researching properties or residents of an area. So if we were to select Exning Manor, which was the other choice, you can see that, as I've said, it's arranged chronological order, and you click on a collection to see the full description. It's titled collections. I would sometimes call it record entries, because it could be relating to an individual document or a run of documents. And as you can see, it's summary information, a brief description and covering dates, location, reference, and other relevant sources of information. But if you were to click on expand, view details of this record creator, this is what you'll find. So it lists all the alternative names in lowercase, and also the parish and the county. Discovery uses the word name place throughout, but in this instance it means parish and county. Now you can do a search by parish. So as we saw earlier, the parish, you want to know how many manors are in that parish. In this case, there are 7. And you can order them into alphabetical order. You can also do a search by county. And this will be a reminder of which counties are available online. So if your county's not there, it's not computerized yet. And you can select a county and then run a search. As you can see, there are 655 manors in Essex. In this instance, when it returns in relevance. So that's relevance for the computer speak. So it's how often that word appears within the entire record entry, from the title to the descriptions and that sort of thing. But you can change it to title ascending or by date. And here you can see that the place or the parish and the county are noted. So it makes it far easier to use. And then that's showing it in alphabetical order, title ascending. Right. So if you were to choose search for manorial documents, in this search you can search by standard manor name, alternative manor name, again the historic county with a drop-down list, parish, English counties only, date, type of document, or a combination of the above. Now these search results will be slightly different, however, and will be displayed under the Records tab, which means that the record entries or documents matching the search criteria will be presented individually rather than grouped together under the manor name. That's the only difference between the two. And it's this section which you can filter by repository and by date. So, if we choose Staffordshire and the date range 1100 to 1150, it returns three documents. And if we were to click on, I think I chose Burton, you can see the details there. So this is a survey with other manors, dated 1114 to 1126. This is the earliest manorial record that we found so far in the revision. It may change with the remaining counties in progress and waiting to be done, but this is the earliest one that we have so far. Then you can also select document type and county to do a search. This is a drop-down list for the county. If you see anything that's in light blue, you can click on it. It will take you through to some other information. And so the document type takes you through to the glossary. So it'll explain what each of the different document types mean and how it helps you with your research. So if we run one for Warwickshire and boundaries, that returns 25 record entries. This is arranged in title ascending, so it's in alphabetical order. And this is when you can export and download your results. So if you want to work offline, you can download it and work from home on it. And it also offers the option of printing as well, which we couldn't do before on the old online MDR. Now, do you remember we did a search on Speen, the parish of Speen, that produced 7 manors? If we do one here, it produces 183 record entries. So that's the difference. It's the other one, the first one, links all the records associated with each manor under the manor name. These then, it's individual entries, and that's the only difference between it. Again, we've arranged it in alphabetical order. And this shows what we call a simple view. So you get more record entries on your page than a detailed view. And this one also allows you to filter by repository. You can see those here. So if you wanted to know which of the record offices held the records for this particular search for Speen, you could click on that, and then that says refine, and then that would just limit it to those records held at that repository. And that's just a more detailed view. Now, you can also do free text searches. But remember to put them in quotes, because if you don't, it's going to search for anything that says Wiltshire, Swindon, History and Centre. So it won't be helpful at all. So if we do this search for Wiltshire and Swindon History Centre, it tells you that they have 691 manorial records entries on the register. I'm sure this will change once Wiltshire goes live at the end of the year. So it will be a huge difference, I imagine. And you can also do search by the NRA catalogue number or the collection reference as well. So I've chosen NRA 44585. And this represents the catalogue for Buckinghamshire Archaeological Society. So you imagine there'd be quite a few manorial records listed amongst this. And as you can see, 1,143. So what I'm going to show you now are some of the developments that I mentioned earlier that we've been working on. So if we select Smith Hills in Lancashire, and as you see, there's no place or location. It's one of the improvements that they're working on at the moment. And you click on Smith Hills Manor, but expand the details for the record creator. This is one of the Manor Authority files for Lancashire. Quite brief. Some of the other ones are more detailed. But also at the bottom you'll see a link, British History Online, a history of the county of Lancashire. So if you click on that, that will take you through to British History Online. And you can just make... I didn't know whether anybody would be able to see at the back, so I pointed out where Smith Hills begins. It's just there. Now, if we were to do a search for Newlands, and this shows why we need to do the enhancement, it shows you a list, but you don't know which one. But I know the one I need, so if you do another search, Newlands Manor and Cumberland, takes you through to here, and as you can see, links up with the county. And this is expanding the record creator. There's no Manor Authority file for this one, but there's a link through to Lancaster University and the Cumbrian Manorial Records. So if we click on that, it takes you through to their guide, their introduction. And this sort of links through to a particular county manorial system. So this is, you can have information about the Cumbrian superior lordship, that sort of thing. But it also provides manorial records, gives you guidance on the sources. So it will tell you which records have sort of name-rich records for your research. So sources for family history are probably the most likely. Court rolls are the ones which are most name-rich. And we discovered that with the Wiltshire project. I think once this project finishes, the family history and transcriptions are going to carry on a separate project, making a note of all the names that they've discovered in it. And then, but also there's a gallery, which I think is rather good. And what it means is, what they've done is they've selected examples of each type of manorial document, and then they provided transcription or a translation and a commentary. So this is the one for a survey. So it's the original document with a commentary about it and how you might use it. Right. Now this one is quite a nice one, Conisbrough. And it relates to individual manorial histories. So if we click through to Conisbrough Manor, you can see there are 57 entries, manorial records for it. And they begin quite early, 1219. But if we were to look at expand the record creator, as you can see there, if you click on Conisbrough Court Rolls, it brings you up to this page. And what they've done here, it was a project by Conisbrough and Dennerby Main Heritage Group, and they actually went to find the funding, which they've got through the Coalfields Regeneration Trust. So they were interested to fund it. And what they did was they selected court rolls linked to national events to see how it affected the locality. And so they've copied the documents and transcribed them and indexed them. So you can now do a search, and there's subjects, which is a drop-down list which you can look at, but also the keyword search. You can search by surname and by place. So some of the work's already been done. And then if you choose Browse, this gives you an indication of the different court rolls that they have digitised. I think that work was done at the University of Sheffield. So if we look at the Peasants' Revolt, there's a thumbnail image of the document in the right-hand corner, and you can make that much bigger so you can actually read the document yourself. And then there's a transcription. with all the names of the individuals. But all of that's now been indexed, so you could, if you're from that area, you'd be able to find that surname. So, Hampstead. If you do a search for Hampstead, 2 come up, but I know that I'm interested in the one for Middlesex. As you can see, there are 2 links when you expand the record creator. One is a link to the Victoria County History volume, and the other one is to the Camden History Society and the translation and transcription of their manorial court rolls for Hampstead. And it takes you through to this page, and then you can download the documents. So there's personal name indexes as well. So if anybody has come across anything like this that's available online, any manorial histories that are available online, and we haven't linked to them, please do let us know, and then we can make it more widely available. There we are. And that's the map. I was going to finish with this map. The pink are the counties that are computerised. The dark blue are the counties in progress. Orange are non-computerised counties. And the commission counties are in light blue. But they're now in progress, so I need to update the map. But I just really wanted to say, in conclusion, that the revision of the register benefits researchers worldwide, enabling them to search for manorial records by manor, parish, type of record, and/or by date, and identify relevant records online. And it's hoped that this revision and all the projects that we've been involved with will encourage new researchers to recognise the benefits of these records for their research. And so this shows our progress so far and what we have left to do. So thank you.
Liz, thank you very much indeed. It's really cheering that there are people around who are looking after all these old documents and things for us, isn't it? Are there any questions?
Thanks, that was very fascinating. My question, which I had a quick look yesterday, but I didn't know to take advantage of the different ways of searching you've brought up, so perhaps it's a bit redundant. But I've got a 2-part question. Is there any hope at all if your parish/manor says no existing documents?
No records known to survive, yes.
And because one of interest is Hinderwell in North Yorkshire. And if you read the Victorian county histories, it was bandied about like sweeties between various lords and earls from the Domesday Book onward. And at some in the 17th and 18th centuries, I think, it was held by the people who held Seaton Manor. And if you put Seaton in, and Seaton with Mulgrave, you do find manorial records. So am I completely barking up the wrong tree? Will someone already have looked at that in thinking it might be worth looking at this other manor's records? Or is it that if the clever people for Yorkshire have said there's nothing for Hinderwell, there's nothing for Hinderwell?
Could I ask where the records are held for Seaton?
Okay. Some in the National Archives, some in the North Yorkshire Archaeological Society. Actually, I've got the printout here. National Archives, survey, ministers' accounts, lists of pains in North Yorkshire Record Office, and Court Roll, Yorkshire Archaeological Society.
Right. The project officers will have looked in all those places for it. So it's only if they are somewhere else that we were unaware of. So it might be in a private collection. It's quite good to be able to trace who owned the manor, because then you can do it. You can look through the families. I mean, we are discovering all the time people are writing in from the record, even from record offices, but privately held. They are sometimes completely unaware of what they've got. So And then when they're downsizing, I think is the expression, they're saying, I've got all these old documents. Are they worth anything? Are they of any historic value? And you go, yes, they really are. And so we're starting to get new stuff. And I think as we do the projects around the country, new material is surfacing all the time because people are aware that, these records are important and they need to be protected and people need to know where they are. So I can do that.
Could I just ask, on Cornwall, which is
yes.
where I'm interested in, is there any indication of any interest for someone to make a start?
Cornwall is on our list, as you saw. We are waiting for them to move into their new premises because what we've discovered is we have run a number of projects as record offices are changing location, but it makes it much harder for the project officers to undertake the work, and it also can delay the project. And if we've got quite a strict timetable, so we've learnt that we need to do it, and so Cornwall is certainly on the list. I'm very interested. I did try and suggest that maybe they could put me on secondment because I'm from Cornwall to go and do that, and that was an emphatic no, I have to say. They would prefer me managing it up in London. But Cornwall is one that we want to do, but we wanted to wait until it was more settled.
You know what the problem is with Cheshire? Problem with Cheshire. Seeing I come from there, they're normally very go-ahead on records. I'm surprised at this.
I think probably that they weren't initially. When we started the projects, as you saw, the funding didn't come. The last few projects, the funding's come from the National Archives. We've been very lucky to get but before that, we had to raise the money locally and through charities. And there had to be an interest either from the sort of local history, local family saying they really wanted this project to go ahead, or from the record office. And we didn't, unfortunately for Cheshire, we didn't get any hint at the time. But they are on the list, and we are hoping that they will be one. I think we're hoping that the next two that will be funded is Leicestershire and Rutland and Lincolnshire. Both of those have expressed a lot of interest about taking it forward. And Lincolnshire seems to be having a lot of records turning up and going into the record office. And in fact, before the rules came in 1926, a lot of the records went overseas. We can't get those back. But occasionally, since then, some material has slipped out of the country. But we do have, we're in the process now of bringing some manorial records back. Somebody has said they've got them. Again, they didn't know what they had. And we said, yes, they were historic value. And so we're bringing them back, and they'll be going to the relevant record office. So it happens all the time. We try, with the rules, we try and stop them from going out of the country in the first place. But if we can start to repatriate them back, that's even better.
You said that there's links to websites, online resources with transcriptions and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have, or will you be having links to books that have been produced with transcriptions?
We will have on the additional information field, when I was talking about whether it's available on microfilm or whether it's a published transcription or translation, we will note the publication. But please, people, let us know, because
Well, mine's Devon. My main interest is Devon and Kent, so I haven't seen any online yet. Thank you.
But yes, do. I mean, I'm aware of some of them. I know there's one for Herefordshire, which is a very good online resource. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the name, the place, but it is a very good one. It's about boundaries and it's about the history of the manor. So when Herefordshire goes online, I will do a link to that with their permission. And that's we need their permission as well, that they're happy for us to link through to their websites.
Any other questions? Yes, came over.
If any of these happen to pop up on eBay or one of those, and I'm sure they
do.
They
Yes.
do. Is there a specific contact who might be able to see if somebody would be able to purchase these? Or, I mean, it just seems so sad that
that they come up for sale.
Yeah.
The funding, that's a different side of it. But to answer your question about eBay and auctions, in my department, Archive Sector Development, we have a team called the Sales Monitoring Team. So they monitor auctions and they monitor eBay as much as they can. And if manorial records come up on eBay, you're allowed to buy and sell manorial records, but they're not allowed to leave the country. So when we find something on eBay which says postage UK and overseas, they then get a notification of the manorial documents rules citing that it can only be sold within the UK. So we are trying to do that. But purchasing, what we do is we contact the relevant record office or whoever it might be interested in them. We don't have any funds to purchase records, and so the record offices, sometimes they have a small purchase fund, but of course they've got a lot of records that they're looking at, not just manorial records. Sometimes they have the friends of a record office that might be able to help, and that's probably the best way.
I had a couple of thoughts related to that. The first one was a little bit further away. eBay started doing what they call collections. So you can't properly curate, but you can collect images.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that they've probably got the images going back possibly from the beginning of eBay. Mm-hmm. So the potential would then be to ask them if they would provide a list of the descriptions of all manorial cells, which might throw something up, or quite a lot up potentially, because probably weren't looking in 2000.
It's how they're described, you know.
Yes, because I've done a little collection for the last few months. Yeah, and some of them aren't necessarily described as manorial, but they clearly are. But that seems to be a possibility. The second one was there are clearly collectors of the material. The Ephemera Society might be another contact that may be worthwhile, or putting a little advert in the Ephemera Society magazine. It's surfaced things like Irish wills that were lost, and a variety of other lost material is sort of within those collections. It's international. And is probably one of, after your usual archaeological societies and record societies that are private and public within the UK, would probably be a good other place to poke around in.
Well, I'll look into those too. Thank you.
Any more questions? Well, once again, Liz, thank you very much indeed for a most informative talk. I can see the website's probably going to go down with all the people looking at it. But it really was absolutely fascinating to find out what is happening and, you know, how we are trying to preserve the items that we have. So thank you very much indeed again.
Okay, thank you.